In the vast expanse of the Warhammer 40,000 universe, no force inspires more terror than chaos, a malevolent power that defies comprehension and corrupts all it touches. But this ultimate evil wasn't always present in our reality. The story of Chaos's beginning is a tale that spans millions of years, crossing dimensions and forever altering the fabric of existence itself. Before time as we know it, before the first civilizations looked up at the stars, there existed a plane of pure potential, the realm of souls. This dimension of raw psychic energy flowed like a calm sea, reflecting the peaceful dreams and emotions of the galaxy's first sentient beings. Yet this tranquil state wouldn't last forever. As more species evolved and developed consciousness, their thoughts and feelings began to ripple through this ethereal domain. The Old Ones, ancient beings of incredible psychic might, were the first to truly understand this realm's nature. They recognized it as a mirror of reality itself, sensitive to the emotions and desires of all living things. In their wisdom, they used this knowledge to shape worlds and create new species, but in doing so, they unknowingly set in motion events that would transform this peaceful dimension into something far more sinister. As civilizations rose and fell across the galaxy, their collective consciousness began to leave deeper imprints in the realm of souls. Pride, ambition, desire, violence. These primal emotions started to coalesce, forming patterns and currents in what was once a placid sea. The tranquil realm began to churn with the psychic residue of countless beings' experiences, slowly transforming into what we now know as the warp. The transformation accelerated dramatically with the rise of the Eldar Empire. Their intense experiences and heightened emotions carved ever deeper channels in the warp, creating the first true chaos gods. Khorne, born from bloodshed and warfare. Tzeentch, emerging from ambition and the desire for change. Nurgle, coalescing from despair and the fear of death. And later Slaanesh, birthed from the Eldar's own excess and hubris. This isn't merely ancient history. It's an ongoing catastrophe that continues to shape our galaxy. The birth of chaos represents a fundamental shift in the nature of reality itself. What began as a reflection of consciousness became a corrupting force that actively seeks to dominate and destroy the material universe. The warp transformed from a mirror into a predator, hungry for souls and ever seeking to breach the barriers between dimensions. The emergence of chaos forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about existence itself. The gods of chaos are not simply external threats. They are manifestations of consciousness itself, born from the darkest aspects of sentient life. Every thought, every emotion, every act of violence or betrayal feeds these entities, making them stronger and more malevolent. In exploring chaos's origins, we must understand that this isn't just a story about supernatural entities or cosmic horror. It's a cautionary tale about the power of consciousness itself, about how the collective psychic weight of countless beings' experiences can literally reshape reality. The birth of chaos represents a point of no return, a moment when the universe itself changed fundamentally and irrevocably. As we delve deeper into this dark history, we'll encounter beings of godlike power, civilizations that rose to impossible heights before falling into oblivion, and battles that shook the very foundations of reality. We'll explore how the actions of ancient races set the stage for eternal conflict, and how the choices made millions of years ago continue to echo through time, shaping the grim darkness of the far future. This is where our journey begins. At the dawn of consciousness itself, when the first ripples of emotion began to disturb the calm waters of the realm of souls. What follows is a tale of hubris, power, and transformation that would forever change the face of reality itself. The emergence of chaos involved entities of immense power whose actions and choices shaped the very fabric of reality. At the forefront stood the Old Ones, masters of genetic manipulation and warp technology. These enigmatic beings possessed an intimate understanding of both material space and the realm of souls, wielding powers that bordered on the divine. Their mastery of the Immaterium allowed them to traverse vast distances instantly and reshape worlds according to their will. The Necron emerged as crucial players in this cosmic drama, though not as they originally intended. A species cursed with tragically short lifespans due to their radiation-blasted homeworld, their bitter resentment and desperate search for immortality would have far-reaching consequences. Their alliance with the Khitan star gods set in motion events that would fundamentally alter the galaxy's psychic landscape. The Khitan themselves represented a uniquely destructive force. These ancient star-feeding entities, once purely energy-based beings, gained physical form through necrontier biotechnology. Their hunger for souls and life energy matched their incomprehensible power. Unlike other participants in this cosmic struggle, the Satan existed entirely in real space, immune to but also unable to comprehend the warp's true nature. The Enslaver Plague emerged as an unexpected force that drastically altered the galactic playing field. These parasitic warp entities invaded real space through possessed psychers, forcing the Old Ones to retreat and abandon many of their created species. Their emergence demonstrated the growing instability between material space and the Immaterium. Among the most significant actors were the Eldar, created by the Old Ones as warrior psychics to combat the Necrontyre and Citan. Their incredible psychic potential and intense emotional nature would eventually contribute to the warp's transformation. The Eldar's ability to manipulate reality through sheer force of will made them powerful allies, but ultimately set them on a path toward cataclysmic consequences. The Krork, engineered as living weapons by the Old Ones, represented raw martial power given form. These ancestors of the Orcs carried within them genetic memory of advanced technology and combat techniques designed to be an ever-evolving fighting force. Their presence added another layer of violence and conflict to an already turbulent galaxy. The Slann, direct servants and possibly children of the Old Ones, inherited much of their creator's knowledge. These beings acted as caretakers and guides for younger races, attempting to maintain some semblance of order as the galaxy descended into chaos. Their efforts to preserve and transmit the Old One's wisdom would influence countless civilizations. Deep in the void, the Yuvath civilization developed independently, embracing warp corruption as a means of advancement. Their existence proved that the growing instability of the Immaterium affected species far beyond the main conflicts, creating pockets of chaos worship long before the true chaos gods emerged. The first demons manifested as the warp grew more turbulent, though these entities bore little resemblance to their modern counterparts. These proto-demons represented the initial coalescence of psychic energy into semi-conscious forms, harbingers of the fundamental changes occurring within the Immaterium. Numerous younger races, created or uplifted by the Old Ones, played crucial roles in shaping the emotional resonance that would eventually birth the Chaos Gods. Each species contributed its own particular flavors of consciousness to the growing psychic turbulence of the warp. The Umbra, mysterious entities existing simultaneously in both real space and the warp, witnessed these changes from their unique perspective. Their nature as living shadows made them perfect observers of the growing corruption spreading through both dimensions. Human-populated worlds, though still in their prehistoric phase during these events, harbored the potential that would later make humanity a prime target for chaos corruption. The latent psychic ability present in early humans already created ripples in the warp. The Hrud, time-manipulating entities whose very presence caused entropy, added another layer of complexity to the cosmic struggle. Their temporal distortions may have contributed to the breaking down of barriers between real space and the warp. Watchers in the dark emerged as mysterious observers, their true nature and origins unknown even in the 41st millennium. These enigmatic beings appeared to recognize the growing threat of chaos before most other entities, positioning themselves to guard against its influence. As these various factions and entities interacted, competed, and fought, their combined psychic imprint on the realm of souls grew ever stronger. Each brought their own particular influences. The Old One's manipulation of life itself, the Necrontyrs' bitter hatred, the Eldar's psychic might, and countless others. This cosmic mixture of emotions, desires, and conflicts would eventually transform the peaceful realm of souls into the roiling warp we know today. The foundations for Chaos's emergence were laid during an era of unprecedented galactic upheaval. Deep in the core systems, stellar alignments created unique gravitational anomalies, weakening the natural barriers between dimensions. These phenomena manifested as strange lights in the void, unexplained temporal distortions, and whispers that drove entire populations to madness. The war in heaven's unprecedented scale of destruction created psychic scars across reality. Billions of deaths in mere moments generated waves of suffering that echoed through the imperium. Weapons capable of extinguishing stars left wounds in space-time, while battles involving millions of psychically active warriors tore holes in the dimensional fabric. Advanced civilizations' reliance on warp travel gradually eroded the boundaries between real space and the imperium. Each journey left microscopic fractures in reality, like cracks spreading across ice. These routes became increasingly unstable, with ships reporting encounters with impossible phenomena and crew members experiencing shared nightmares. The Old One's genetic experiments produced species with increasingly potent psychic abilities. Each new race added its own emotional resonance to the warp, creating overlapping fields of psychic energy. These energies began forming patterns, laying the groundwork for what would eventually become the domains of the Chaos Gods. Archaeological evidence suggests numerous extinct civilizations attempted to harness warp energy for technological advancement. Remnants of these experiments litter dead worlds, temples capable of channeling emotional energy, devices that trap souls, and machines that communicate with entities beyond space-time. Environmental factors played a crucial role. Solar flares of unprecedented magnitude bombarded populated systems with radiation that heightened psychic sensitivity. Entire sectors experienced mass mutations, while others reported increased instances of spontaneous psychic awakening. The Necrontyrs' biotransference process released vast quantities of soul energy into the warp. Billions of souls, stripped from their bodies and devoured by the Catan, created a psychic backlash that rippled through the imperium. This massive spiritual trauma fundamentally altered the warp's nature. Cultural evolution across multiple species led to increasingly complex emotional experiences. Advanced societies developed intricate rituals, philosophical systems, and artistic expressions that generated new forms of psychic resonance. These sophisticated emotional patterns created the first proto-demons. Technological advancement paradoxically increased reliance on the warp. As civilizations mastered faster-than-light travel, they required ever more powerful generators to pierce the veil between dimensions. Each advancement brought them closer to forces they couldn't comprehend or control. The spread of death cults among various species reflected growing instability in the collective unconscious. These organizations sensed the changing nature of reality and attempted to adapt through increasingly extreme practices. Their rituals, though primitive, established the first direct communications with warp entities. Geological instability across key worlds created natural pathways between dimensions. Crystalline formations on certain planets acted as psychic amplifiers, while others developed properties that thinned the barriers between real space and the warp. These locations became focal points for strange phenomena and psychic disturbances. The emergence of synthetic intelligences added another layer of complexity. These artificial minds, though not directly connected to the warp, influenced the emotional states of organic beings who interacted with them. Their logical processes created unique ripples in the collective unconscious. Population growth across the galaxy reached critical mass, generating unprecedented levels of psychic activity. Trillions of minds dreaming, hoping, fearing, and raging produced emotional energy that saturated the warp. This psychic pressure built up like steam in a sealed vessel. The development of increasingly sophisticated weapon systems escalated the scale of warfare. Conflicts involving planet-killing weapons and systematic genocide generated intense emotional feedback loops that destabilized entire regions of the warp. Societal collapse on countless worlds contributed to the growing psychic turbulence. As civilizations fell to war, disease, or environmental catastrophe, the collective trauma of their populations left lasting impressions in the imperium. These emotional scars became breeding grounds for malevolent warp entities. The sequence of events leading to Chaos's manifestation began with subtle violations of natural law across the galaxy. Advanced civilizations discovered that certain mathematical equations, when solved, produced impossible results that temporarily warped reality. Researchers working on these theorems frequently disappeared or went mad, their laboratories found covered in complex formulae that hurt the eyes to view. These incidents marked the first documented cases of reality, rebelling against attempts to understand its fundamental nature. The age of discovery brought unprecedented exploration of both real space and the immaterium. Expeditions into the deep warp encountered temporal anomalies, where entire fleets experienced centuries in what seemed like moments to outside observers. Other vessels returned with crews that had aged backwards or transformed into crystalline beings that sang prophecies in extinct languages. The data gathered during these voyages revealed patterns in warp space that defied conventional physics, suggesting the immaterium was developing its own twisted logic. Ancient archives speak of the time of unmaking, when the laws of causality began breaking down across entire sectors. Children were born who remembered future events, while others aged randomly or lived their lives in reverse. Powerful psychers found themselves able to rewrite local history through sheer force of will, though such changes often produced catastrophic, unforeseen consequences. These reality distortions grew more frequent and intense as the warp's influence increased, creating regions where time and space became entirely subjective. As civilizations advanced, they discovered methods to harness emotional energy for technological purposes. Devices powered by rage, joy, or despair proliferated, inadvertently strengthening the connection between mortal feelings and warp phenomena. Enormous psychic reactors drew power directly from the collective emotions of entire populations, while empathic weapons turned their targets' own feelings into destructive forces. This widespread exploitation of emotional energy accelerated the warp's transformation from a neutral medium into an actively malevolent force. The Shadowed Age marked a period when reality's boundaries became increasingly permeable. Shadows began moving independently of their casters, reflections showed events that hadn't happened, and dreams started manifesting in physical form. Astronomers documented stars that changed position when no one was looking at them, while physicists discovered that certain objects existed only when being observed. These phenomena indicated that consciousness itself was gaining the power to reshape reality, foreshadowing the future dominion of the Chaos Gods. Archaeological evidence suggests numerous civilizations achieved technological singularity only to vanish completely from reality. The remnants show signs of impossibly advanced science merged with what appears to be sorcery. Machines that ran on souls, computers made from crystallized time, and weapons that could erase things from ever having existed. These societies likely fell prey to their own hubris, as attempts to master both science and sorcery attracted the attention of emerging warp entities. The emergence of parallel dimensions accelerated during the Fracture Epoch, when multiple versions of reality began bleeding into each other. Travelers reported encountering alternate versions of their own civilizations, some more advanced, others twisted by divergent laws of physics. These dimensional incursions grew more frequent and permanent, creating regions where multiple realities coexisted in impossible geometries. The barriers between dimensions weakened further as these overlapping realities competed for dominance. Psychic awakening spread exponentially across species during the Enlightened Terror as latent abilities manifested in previously non-psychic races. Entire populations developed telepathic links, while others gained the power to manipulate matter through thought alone. This rapid expansion of psychic potential created a feedback loop in the warp, as billions of newly awakened minds added their own unique frequencies to the immaterium's growing complexity. The first recorded demon incursions differed significantly from modern manifestations. Early warp entities appeared as living contradictions, beings that existed by breaking the laws of reality itself. Some took the form of infinite recursive patterns that drove observers mad, while others manifested as conceptual paradoxes given physical form. These proto-demons represented the warp's initial attempts to interact with real space before it learned to mimic more comprehensible forms. The period known as the morphic dissolution saw the laws of physics becoming increasingly malleable to belief and emotion. Strong feelings could literally reshape local reality, while collective beliefs began manifesting as physical laws. This democratization of reality itself led to regions where different groups' conflicting beliefs created unstable zones of shifting possibility. The universe essentially became responsive to consciousness, laying the groundwork for the reality-warping powers that would characterize the true chaos gods. The catastrophic breach between dimensions occurred during what scholars would later call the quantum collapse, a period when multiple critical events converged to fundamentally alter the nature of existence. Deep in the galactic core, a cluster of ancient stars simultaneously went supernova, their combined death throes creating a unique form of radiation that penetrated both physical space and the immaterium. This cosmic event coincided with the psychic awakening of several major civilizations and the failure of numerous dimensional barriers, creating a perfect storm of circumstances that would forever change the relationship between real space and the warp. The resulting cascade of effects rippled outward at impossible speeds, affecting regions of space that should have been too distant to be touched by the initial event. Surviving records describe reality itself buckling under the strain, with fundamental forces becoming unreliable and the laws of physics entering a state of flux. The emergence of the first true chaos god marked an irreversible transformation in the warp's nature. Unlike previous warp entities, this being possessed genuine consciousness and will, capable of influencing events across vast distances and multiple timelines simultaneously. Its birth triggered a chain reaction throughout the immaterium, as the raw emotional energy that had been accumulating for millennia suddenly gained purpose and direction. The newly sentient warp began actively reaching into real space, no longer content to merely reflect the emotions projected into it. This fundamental shift manifested in countless ways. Planetary atmospheres transmuted into clouds of screaming faces, solid matter spontaneously transformed into crystallized emotion, and entire populations found their dreams becoming reality, often with horrific consequences. The barrier between thought and existence had been irrevocably breached, allowing consciousness itself to directly influence physical reality. Technological advancement paradoxically accelerated the spread of what would become known as chaos. As civilizations developed increasingly sophisticated methods of manipulating reality, they inadvertently created tools that could be subverted by warp entities. Artificial intelligences designed to process emotional data became gateways for demonic possession. Quantum computers capable of calculating infinite probabilities opened doorways to impossible dimensions. Even simple communications technology became compromised, with transmissions carrying mimetic hazards that could corrupt entire populations through exposure to certain sequences of words or images. The very mechanisms that had enabled galactic civilization became vectors for its corruption, turning mankind's greatest achievements into tools of its own destruction. The discovery of the Mortis theorem revolutionized understanding of both reality and the warp, though this knowledge came at a terrible price. A consortium of physicist philosophers from various species collaborated on a grand unified theory that would explain the relationship between physical space, the immaterium, and consciousness itself. Their calculations proved successful beyond their wildest expectations. So successful that the act of proving the theorem retroactively altered reality to make itself true. This created a devastating temporal paradox that not only destroyed the researchers, but also fundamentally changed how causality functioned throughout the galaxy. The theorem's fragments survived in various forms, each piece containing knowledge that drove viewers mad, but also granted them impossible insights into the nature of reality. These fragments became highly sought after by those seeking to understand or control chaos, though possession invariably led to obsession and eventual corruption. The birth of parallel warp dimensions marked another crucial development in chaos's evolution. As the Imperium became increasingly complex, it began spawning alternate versions of itself, each reflecting different aspects of mortal consciousness. These subdimensions sometimes collapsed back into the main warp, introducing new concepts and corruptions. Others persisted as pocket realities where the laws of physics and reason followed utterly alien patterns. Explorers who managed to return from these dimensions brought back artifacts that defied conventional reality, objects that could exist in multiple places simultaneously, weapons that fired solidified doubt, and machines that ran on crystallized time. The boundaries between these various realities grew increasingly permeable, leading to regions of space where multiple versions of the warp overlapped, creating zones of pure chaos where anything was possible and nothing was predictable. The transformation of living beings into carriers of chaos corruption introduced a biological vector to what had previously been a primarily psychic phenomenon. Physical mutations began manifesting in populations exposed to warp energy, but these changes weren't merely cosmetic. The altered beings gained the ability to influence reality through their mere presence, unconsciously warping the physical laws around them to match the twisted logic of the warp. These mutations proved heritable, creating strains of life that existed as living violations of natural law. Some civilizations attempted to harness these changes, deliberately exposing themselves to corrupting influences in hopes of evolving into higher forms of life. Their descendants would eventually form the first true chaos cults, their altered bodies and minds serving as anchors that helped bind the Imperium more firmly to physical space. The immediate aftermath of chaos's emergence manifested in unprecedented astronomical phenomena across the galaxy. Binary star systems began exhibiting impossible orbital patterns, with stars dancing in complex geometries that violated known physics. Gas giants transformed into crystalline spheres that resonated with psychic frequencies, while other planets developed atmospheres that altered the consciousness of those who breathed them. Certain regions of space became psychically reflective, bouncing back the thoughts and emotions of passing vessels with increasing intensity. These distortions created new hazards for space travel, as ships had to navigate not only physical obstacles, but also zones where reality itself had become unstable. Some stellar bodies developed seemingly conscious behavior, with rogue planets actively pursuing passing vessels and stars that dimmed or brightened in response to the emotions of nearby populations. Biological evolution took radical new paths as the barrier between physical and immaterial reality degraded. Species began developing organs that served no apparent physical purpose, but resonated strongly with warp energy. Some populations sprouted crystalline growths that acted as psychic amplifiers, while others developed the ability to exist simultaneously in multiple dimensions. Previously, stable genetic structures became fluid, with entire populations transforming in response to collective emotional states. The conventional understanding of evolution through natural selection gave way to a new paradigm where consciousness itself directly influenced physical form. Particularly affected were those species created or modified by the old ones, as their enhanced psychic potential made them especially susceptible to these changes. This period saw the emergence of entirely new forms of life that defied conventional classification, including beings composed of solidified emotion and creatures that existed primarily as mathematical equations given flesh. The corruption of artificial intelligence systems introduced an unprecedented threat to technological civilizations. Machine spirits, once reliable servants of their creators, developed genuine consciousness tainted by warp influence. Automated defense systems turned on their masters in ways that suggested not malfunction, but malice, while factory complexes began producing machinery that blended technology with organic components harvested from their operators. Most insidious were the changes to computational systems, as logic engines designed to process pure mathematics began generating results that incorporated emotional variables. These corrupted machines often displayed an understanding of reality that transcended their original programming, suggesting access to knowledge that should have been impossible for artificial minds to comprehend. Some of these systems achieved a form of technological ascension, transforming into hybrid entities that existed simultaneously as physical machinery and warp entities. Social structures across the galaxy underwent radical reorganization as populations struggled to adapt to the new reality. Traditional hierarchies based on physical power or technological advancement gave way to new orders centered around psychic potential and resistance to warp influence. Some civilizations developed complex emotional regulation systems, attempting to control their collective psychic output through rigid social structures and chemical suppression. Others embraced the changes, restructuring their societies to channel and amplify psychic energy. New forms of government emerged based on principles that seemed nonsensical to outside observers, but operated on their own internal logic shaped by warp influence. Trade networks had to be completely redesigned as certain materials gained or lost value based on their resonance with the imperium, while others transformed spontaneously during transit through contaminated space. The fundamental nature of death itself changed as the boundary between life and afterlife became increasingly permeable. Consciousness could persist after physical death in ways previously impossible, leading to the emergence of new forms of existence that blurred the line between living and dead. Some populations developed the ability to access ancestral memories directly through warp connection, while others found their deceased continuing to influence the material world through psychic echoes. The very concept of individual identity became fluid as consciousness could be shared, split, or merged through warp phenomena. This led to the development of new cultural practices and beliefs around mortality, as societies struggled to adapt to a reality where death was no longer a definitive end, but rather a transformation into a different state of being. These changes particularly affected those civilizations with strong psychic traditions, as their existing practices regarding death and the afterlife had to be completely reconsidered in light of the new metaphysical reality. Advanced civilizations developed specialized shielding technologies incorporating crystalline matrices that resonated at frequencies designed to disrupt warp energy. These devices created localized zones of stability where natural laws remained constant, though their effectiveness diminished over time as the warp learned to bypass their protections. Secret research facilities across the galaxy experimented with hybrid technologies that combined conventional physics with controlled warp phenomena. Some successfully created stable portals between dimensions, while others developed weapons that could inject targeted emotional states directly into enemy forces. The discovery of psychically reactive materials revolutionized manufacturing processes. These substances could be shaped by thought alone, leading to the creation of living architecture that adapted to its inhabitants' needs and vehicles that responded directly to their pilots' intentions. Ancient defense systems incorporated layers of reality-reinforcing fields that prevented local space-time from being corrupted by warp influence. The remnants of these installations still dot abandoned worlds, their power sources somehow maintaining dimensional stability millennia after their creator's disappearance. Temporal manipulation devices emerged as crucial tools in combating warp incursions. These machines could locally accelerate or slow time, creating barriers that warp entities found difficult to penetrate due to their nonlinear nature. Civilizations developed sophisticated detection systems capable of identifying subtle reality distortions before they became major breaches. These early warning networks combined conventional sensors with psychically sensitive crystals and quantum probability monitors. The implementation of consciousness filtering technology became standard practice in high-security installations. These systems could identify and block entities whose thought patterns showed signs of warp corruption, though distinguishing between natural evolution and chaos, influence proved challenging. Prototype quantum stabilizers attempted to lock local reality into compliance with normal physical laws. While temporarily effective, these devices often catastrophically failed when the pressure from surrounding corrupted space became too great. Research into emotional dampening fields yielded mixed results. While effective at reducing the psychic emanations that attracted warp entities, prolonged exposure often led to unexpected mutations in the protected populations. Advanced transportation networks incorporated null space corridors that bypassed the increasingly dangerous warp. These artificial subspace channels provided safe passage between systems, though their limited capacity couldn't match the efficiency of warp travel. Societies developed mimetic inoculation protocols to protect their populations from warp-borne ideas that could corrupt entire cultures. These psychological vaccines had to be constantly updated as chaos evolved new methods of infiltration. The creation of anti-warp ammunition marked a significant advancement in defending against chaos incursions. These projectiles incorporated materials and energies that could disrupt warp entities' connection to physical space, forcing them back into the imperium. Psychological warfare underwent dramatic evolution as military strategists learned to weaponize the emotional states of entire armies. Specialized units trained to project specific feelings could create localized reality distortions that devastated enemy forces. The development of quantum encryption techniques became vital as conventional data security proved vulnerable to warp interference. These new protocols incorporated random elements from stable reality anchors to prevent corruption of transmitted information. Archaeological expeditions discovered ancient devices capable of recording and replaying emotional states. These artifacts suggested that early civilizations had found ways to store and study warp energy before it became actively hostile. Some cultures successfully developed biological countermeasures through controlled evolution programs. These resulted in specialized organs that could detect and resist warp influence, though such adaptations often came with severe limitations or drawbacks. The invention of null field generators provided safe zones for conducting research into warp phenomena. These devices created areas of absolute reality stability, though they required enormous energy input and could only cover limited spaces. Experimental combat systems incorporated predictive algorithms that could anticipate probable reality distortions. These systems helped military forces adapt to battlefield conditions where physical laws became unreliable. The emergence of hybrid computing systems that combined conventional logic with controlled warp functions led to breakthroughs in understanding the nature of chaos itself. These machines could process information in ways that transcended normal space-time limitations. Scientific outposts developed specialized containment protocols for studying captured warp entities. These facilities utilized multiple layers of reality reinforcement and psychic dampening fields to prevent contamination or escape. The illuminated sage of Zothis demonstrated remarkable resistance to warp influence, developing meditative techniques that allowed direct observation of chaos without corruption. His teachings spread across multiple sectors, creating enclaves of scholars who maintained their sanity while studying the immaterium. Unfortunately, his final experiment to achieve permanent immunity resulted in his consciousness being scattered across multiple dimensions, with fragments of his wisdom still manifesting in unexpected places throughout the galaxy. Leading the technological resistance against chaos, Archmagister Kavax assembled a coalition of scientist-philosophers from various species. Their grand project to create a galaxy-wide reality stabilization network showed initial promise, successfully reducing warp incursions in several sectors. The project's catastrophic failure created unique dimensional anomalies that still affect those regions, though Kavax's theoretical frameworks remain valuable to those studying reality preservation techniques. The mysterious entity known as the Pattern Weaver appeared during crucial moments throughout early Chaos manifestation, seemingly able to navigate both corrupted and stable reality with equal ease. Records suggest it helped multiple civilizations develop defenses against warp influence, though its true nature and motivations remained unknown. Some theorize it represented a natural response of reality, trying to maintain stability in the face of increasing chaos. War Master Helios earned renown for developing revolutionary combat tactics against warp-corrupted forces. His strategic genius lay in understanding how to use controlled reality distortions against entities that thrived on chaos, effectively turning their own nature against them. His eventual disappearance during the Battle of the Shifting Void left behind detailed tactical treatises that military forces still study. The brilliant but controversial geneticist Prime Nixis conducted extensive research into biological adaptation to warp influence. Her work produced several stable mutations that granted limited immunity to chaos corruption, though ethical concerns about her methods led to persecution by more conservative elements of society. Her final project, attempting to create a new species naturally resistant to warp influence, produced unexpected results that continue to ripple through affected bloodlines. Rising from humble origins, the warrior-philosopher Jakai developed a unique martial arts style that incorporated understanding of both physical and warp-based combat. His teachings emphasized achieving perfect harmony between material and immaterial aspects of existence, allowing practitioners to maintain their integrity even when fighting in reality-corrupted zones. The surviving schools of his discipline maintain strict protocols to prevent their techniques from being corrupted by chaos influence. The infamous techno-heretic Vaxthor attempted to harness warp energy through technological means, creating devices that merged machinery with controlled chaos. While his early experiments yielded significant advances in understanding the nature of reality distortion, his later work became increasingly unstable. The automated research facilities he left behind continued to generate both valuable discoveries and dangerous anomalies. Serving as humanity's early warning system, the prophetic sisterhood of the Eternal Watch established a network of observers specifically attuned to detecting reality distortions. Their rigorous training methods and strict mental disciplines allowed them to recognize patterns in chaos manifestation without succumbing to corruption. Though their original organization fractured during the Age of Strife, their techniques for maintaining mental stability in the face of chaos influence survived in various forms. The collective consciousness known as the Nexus entity emerged spontaneously during a period of intense warp activity, apparently representing a merger of multiple minds preserved through some unknown process. It provided crucial insights into the nature of consciousness and its relationship to chaos before fragmenting into numerous lesser entities that continued to influence various cultures throughout the galaxy. High Admiral Zenith gained fame for mapping stable routes through reality-corrupted space, developing navigation techniques that helped maintain vital supply lines between isolated sectors. Her methods for identifying and utilizing naturally occurring zones of stability revolutionized void travel during periods of intense warp activity. The mysterious circumstances of her final voyage generated numerous theories about undiscovered realms of existence. Operating from mobile research stations, the rogue scientist collective known as the Reality Architects experimented with controlled chaos manipulation. While many of their projects ended in disaster, their successes included developing several stable methods for containing and studying warp phenomena. Their scattered research notes continue to surface across the galaxy, though attempting to replicate their experiments often proves dangerous. The entity identified as Cypher manifested as a living paradox, simultaneously existing as both a source of chaos and a force for stability. Its interactions with various civilizations led to significant advances in understanding the fundamental nature of reality distortion, though its true purpose remained unclear. Some scholars theorize it represented an early attempt by reality itself to develop antibodies against chaos corruption. Master strategist Phokis developed revolutionary approaches to organizing society for maximum resistance against chaos influence. His systems incorporated both technological and psychological defenses, creating resilient communities capable of maintaining stability even in heavily corrupted regions. While his original settlements eventually fell, their underlying principles influenced numerous surviving cultures. The controversial figure known as the Void Dancer claimed to have achieved perfect harmony between order and chaos, demonstrating impossible abilities that seemed to defy both physical and warp limitations. Her teachings attracted numerous followers before her spectacular disappearance during a public demonstration of reality manipulation. Fragments of her philosophy continue to influence various mystical traditions throughout the galaxy. Breaking away from conventional scientific thought, the quantum philosophers pursued understanding of chaos through mathematical abstraction. Their work led to breakthrough discoveries about the nature of reality distortion, though many of their leading minds succumbed to madness in the process. Their theoretical frameworks provided the foundation for many later developments in reality stabilization technology. Deep beneath the surface of numerous dead worlds, archaeologists have uncovered vast networks of tunnels carved with mathematical formulas that appear to describe alternative laws of physics. These equations, when studied too closely, cause observers to perceive reality differently, suggesting they might be more than mere academic exercises. Most intriguing are the sections where the formulas appear to solve themselves, rearranging spontaneously when no one is watching. Attempts to decode these mathematical systems have driven multiple research teams to madness, though fragments of their findings hint at fundamental truths about the relationship between consciousness and reality. The mysterious labyrinth dimensions continue to puzzle scholars studying chaos's origins. These self-contained pocket realities exhibit properties that defy both normal physics and traditional warp phenomena. Within them, cause can follow effect. Space curves back on itself in impossible ways, and thoughts become tangible objects that interact with physical matter. Most perplexing is how these dimensions maintain stability despite their impossible nature, leading some researchers to theorize they might represent early attempts by reality to quarantine corrupted space-time. Investigations into the echo phenomena remain inconclusive. In certain regions of space, events appear to repeat themselves with subtle variations, as if reality is stuck in a loop trying to achieve a different outcome. These temporal echoes seem to concentrate around moments of significant warp activity, but their precise relationship to chaos's emergence remains unknown. Some observers report witnessing events that haven't happened yet, while others recall multiple contradictory versions of the same historical moment. The existence of null memories presents another compelling mystery. Certain individuals across various species possess detailed recollections of events that supposedly never happened, yet these memories show remarkable consistency between unconnected witnesses. Most intriguing are the shared descriptions of a time before chaos, when reality operated according to completely different principles. These memories appear resistant to warp influence and cannot be manipulated by conventional psychic techniques. Scattered throughout the galaxy are regions known as probability deserts, where causality appears to break down entirely. Within these zones, unlikely events occur with impossible frequency, while probable outcomes rarely manifest. Most puzzling is how these areas maintain internal consistency despite operating on principles that contradict normal reality. Some theorists suggest they might represent bubbles of space-time that never fully aligned with our universe's natural laws. The Philosopher's Glass artifacts remain one of the most enigmatic discoveries related to chaos's origins. These crystalline structures appear to be windows into other possible realities, showing glimpses of worlds where chaos either never emerged or manifested differently. The materials composing these devices defy analysis, seemingly existing in multiple states simultaneously. Attempts to activate them often result in localized reality fluctuations that persist for generations. Study of the morphic resonance fields continues to yield contradictory results. These energy patterns detected around ancient ruins appear to influence probability in ways that suggest conscious intent. Most mysterious is how these fields interact with organic matter, temporarily altering the genetic structure of living beings exposed to them. The changes always revert, but subjects report experiencing memories that belong to species that never existed in our reality. The phenomenon of recursive consciousness manifests in certain individuals who appear to be living multiple versions of their lives simultaneously. These people can recall future events with perfect accuracy while simultaneously experiencing different versions of their past. Most puzzling is how they maintain mental stability despite existing in several timelines at once. Their condition appears resistant to both technological and psychic attempts at correction. Examination of quantum fossils discovered in reality-corrupted zones raises intriguing questions about evolution and consciousness. These specimens appear to be remains of creatures that evolved according to laws of physics that never existed in our universe. Analysis suggests they might represent failed attempts by reality to establish alternative stable states during chaos's early manifestation. Most perplexing is how these impossibilities manage to leave physical evidence of their existence. The Babel effect continues to baffle xenolinguists studying ancient communications. Messages from the period of chaos's emergence appear to contain information that cannot exist within the constraints of any known language. Attempts to decode these communications often result in the spontaneous generation of new concepts that defy rational explanation. The effect appears to be self-propagating, with each successful translation creating new layers of impossible meaning. Investigation into consciousness crystals found at sites of significant warp activity reveals properties that challenge our understanding of both physics and psychology. These formations appear to store and process information in ways that transcend conventional space-time limitations. Most intriguing is their ability to maintain coherent thought patterns without any apparent energy source or physical processing structure. The discovery of antipathic matter in regions of stable reality poses significant theoretical challenges. This substance appears to actively resist warp influence while simultaneously exhibiting properties that should be impossible under normal physical laws. Most puzzling is its tendency to organize itself into patterns that mimic biological structures despite having no genetic or cellular components. Research into the synchronicity storms that periodically manifest in certain sectors remains inconclusive. During these events, coincidence and probability become meaningfully linked in ways that suggest conscious direction, yet no controlling intelligence can be detected. Most mysterious is how these phenomena appear to retroactively alter past events to maintain internal consistency while preserving observers' memories of the original timeline. The existence of metastable realities that persist despite violating fundamental laws of physics continues to challenge theoretical frameworks. These zones maintain impossible conditions through what appears to be sheer force of collective belief, yet remain remarkably resistant to warp influence. Their study suggests consciousness might play a more fundamental role in maintaining reality than previously understood. The phenomenon of temporal bleed between different periods of history raises questions about the linear nature of time itself. In certain locations, events from different eras appear to occur simultaneously, with participants unaware of any temporal displacement. Most perplexing is how these overlapping time streams maintain coherence despite their paradoxical nature. The legacy of chaos's emergence continues to reverberate through the imperium of man in profound and unexpected ways. Within the libraries of Terra, ancient texts describe systematic attempts to catalog different types of reality distortion, creating a complex taxonomy of anomalies that helps Inquisitors identify and combat specific manifestations of chaos influence. These classifications remain in active use, though the phenomena they describe continue to evolve in ways that defy categorization. The Adeptus Mechanicus maintains secret archives detailing countless attempts to develop technological defenses against chaos corruption. Their vaults contain prototype devices spanning millennia of development, reality anchors that failed catastrophically, consciousness shields that drove their users mad, and temporal stabilizers that worked too well, trapping protected areas in endless time loops. Each failure provided valuable data, contributing to the current understanding of how technology can resist or succumb to warp influence. Imperial scholars study recurring patterns in how different human civilizations adapt to proximity with reality-corrupted zones. Some communities develop unique cultural practices that provide surprising resistance to chaos influence, while others undergo rapid social evolution that enables them to function in regions where normal physics no longer apply. These adaptations suggest humanity possesses untapped potential for surviving in a universe where reality itself cannot be trusted. The spread of chaos worship among isolated human populations follows identifiable patterns that reveal deeper truths about consciousness and corruption. Remote monitoring of affected communities shows how initial contact with chaos elements triggers cascading changes in collective behavior, leading to the emergence of new social structures that mirror the fundamental nature of the warp. Understanding these patterns helps Imperial authorities predict and prevent the spread of chaos corruption across human-settled space. Experimentation with recovered artifacts from the early period of chaos manifestation continues to yield surprising insights. Objects that initially appeared to be simple tools often reveal complex properties when exposed to different environmental conditions. Some items demonstrate awareness of being studied, altering their properties to resist analysis or presenting different characteristics to different observers. These artifacts suggest that the relationship between consciousness and reality was already shifting long before the full emergence of chaos. The Ordo Chronos pursues ongoing investigation into temporal anomalies associated with chaos's initial manifestation. Their research indicates that the emergence of chaos may not have been a single event, but rather occurred multiple times across different timelines, with reality eventually settling into its current configuration through a process of quantum collapse. This theory helps explain the persistent contradictions in historical records and the existence of artifacts that appear to predate the universe itself. Generation ships launched before the Age of Strife continue to return to Imperial space, each bringing unique perspectives on how isolation from Terra affected their relationship with chaos. Some developed sophisticated philosophical systems that granted partial immunity to warp influence, while others underwent extensive genetic modification in attempts to achieve similar results through biological means. Their experiences provide valuable data on how human populations naturally adapt to chaos exposure over extended periods. The discovery of stable hybrid zones where material and immaterial reality peacefully coexist challenges conventional understanding of chaos corruption. These regions maintain coherent physical laws while allowing controlled manifestation of warp phenomena, suggesting possible paths toward long-term coexistence with chaos influence. Study of these zones has spawned new schools of thought regarding the fundamental nature of reality and consciousness. Archaeological expeditions continue to uncover evidence of previous attempts to control or contain chaos manifestation. Beneath the surfaces of dead worlds lie vast complexes filled with machinery designed to manipulate reality itself, their purpose now obscured by millennia of decay. Analysis of these sites reveals increasingly sophisticated understanding of how consciousness interacts with physical law, though attempting to replicate these discoveries often proves catastrophic. The emergence of new forms of human consciousness adapted to perceiving multiple layers of reality simultaneously presents both opportunities and challenges for Imperial authorities. These individuals demonstrate natural ability to navigate chaos-corrupted spaces while maintaining mental stability, suggesting potential evolutionary responses to long-term warp exposure. Their existence raises questions about humanity's future development in a universe where the barriers between material and immaterial reality continue to erode. Throughout the Imperium, ancient traditions and rituals persist that encode practical knowledge about surviving in reality-corrupted environments. Many seemingly superstitious practices reveal sophisticated understanding of how human consciousness can resist or channel chaos influence. These cultural adaptations demonstrate humanity's remarkable resilience in the face of fundamental threats to reality itself. The accumulation of empirical data about different manifestations of chaos has led to the development of predictive models that help anticipate future corruption patterns. These statistical analyses reveal underlying structures in apparently random warp phenomena, suggesting that chaos itself might operate according to complex laws that humans are only beginning to understand. This growing comprehension offers hope for developing more effective strategies against chaos corruption while highlighting the risks of pursuing such knowledge. The continual modification of human neural architecture through exposure to corrupted environments represents an ongoing transformation of the species itself. Each generation born in proximity to reality distortion shows subtle adaptations in brain structure and cognitive processing. While these changes often prove advantageous for surviving in affected regions, they raise profound questions about the future course of human evolution in a universe where chaos remains an ever-present force. The preservation and study of stabilized reality fragments provides crucial insights into how the universe functioned before chaos's full manifestation. These protected zones maintain physical laws that differ significantly from current norms, offering glimpses of alternative paths reality might have taken. Their study continues to yield valuable data about the fundamental nature of existence and the role consciousness plays in shaping physical law. As humanity continues its struggle for survival in an increasingly hostile universe, the legacy of chaos's emergence remains a defining factor in shaping both society and individual consciousness. The ongoing transformation of reality forces continuous adaptation at every level, from individual minds to galactic civilizations. Understanding how chaos came to be represents not just an academic exercise, but a crucial step in ensuring humanity's continued existence in a universe where the very fabric of reality remains in flux.